go represent Arkansas yourself. Let's give it on Thursday. Yeah. I also want to thank Michelle Grace and all the members of your committee. Thanks for your hard work putting together the dinner tonight, and beyond what you do this time, what you do every day of the year to help build and grow the Republican Party in Sharp and Izard County. It's great to be back with so many friends and supporters. You know, time flies, and you oftentimes can look back on the bright side and forget some of the dark side. And I've had a chance to visit with a lot of veterans tonight, and I think it's fair to say for all of us who served in our nation's military, we always look back fondly on the comradeship, on the success, on the sense of mission and accomplishment we have. We don't look so much back on KP and staff duty and getting frostbite on overnight marches. You always tend to focus on the positive. So I just want to remind everyone where we were a year ago. Think about where we were a year ago and contrast it to where we are today. Because I think most of you, like I, am pretty happy that we've got Donald Trump back in the White House. And that's a heck of a contrast to where we were a year ago. Amen. With Joe Biden in the White House. And someone in charge of the White House besides Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. You had the media running around trying to talk about how he would spin the fiddle as sharp as a tack, ran circles around him privately, but they never saw him. In contrast, I don't know if you saw the news today, I think Donald Trump spent about 8 hours with the media in the Oval Office. Mm-hmm. He sent them out twice and called them back twice. He was going to want to talk to them more. Think about the contrast between Donald Trump today with Republicans in charge to where we were a year ago. I mean, it was barely over a year ago that President Trump had survived an assassination attempt on his life. It was barely over a year ago that the Democrats pulled the big switcheroo and they discarded Joe Biden for Kamala Harris. Talk about how the frying pan into the fire. I served with Kamala Harris for 4 years in the United States Senate. She was with me on the Senate Intelligence Committee. She did nothing to justify that committee's name. I promise you that. But whether it was Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or anyone else, they couldn't deny the facts. We had runaway inflation that was crushing families' budgets. That was making it hard for our businesses and our farmers and our ranchers to make ends meet. Energy prices were through the roof. Food prices were through the roof. Crime in our cities was out of control. We had a slow motion invasion at our southern border of more than 10 million illegal aliens. And we were being humiliated around the world. Joe Biden had put the equivalent of a kidney sign on Uncle Sam's back. That's where we were just 1 year ago today. But thanks to all of you and your hard work and the hard work of Republicans just like you all across Arkansas and all across America, it is a new day once again in our government. And you can see the results already. Just look maybe at the quickest difference we saw with President Trump back in the White House and Republicans in charge in Congress. We went from having over 10 million illegal aliens flooding into our country to zero. President Trump and Republicans Democrats said it couldn't be done. They said it was too hard. They said there were too many reasons for people to try to make it to America. They said you couldn't pass a law, that's what it took. But as President Trump said in the State of the Union, it turns out it didn't take a new law, it only took a new president. Mm-hmm. But I'm happy to report, we also passed a new law to help them close do immigration enforcement to protect this country from illegal aliens, from hardened criminals, from drug traffickers and cartels, from every kind of danger that is flooding across our border. We're going to fund the completion of the border wall. It's going to be complete by the time President Trump leaves office. And it's going to be there for good, no matter who is president in the future. And apparently we're going to paint it black so it's too hot to touch, which I also endorse. We have a record investment in new ICE agents and Border Patrol personnel, brave men and women who are out on our border or in our community streets enforcing our immigration laws and getting vicious criminals and MS-13 gangbangers out of our streets, out of our country, and back where they belong, in their country. And we're going to establish the principle that the only acceptable amount of illegal immigration is zero. None of it. If you want to be in this country, you need to come here legally. And between President Trump's leadership and the big, beautiful bill, that's what we're going to do. Now, but that bill also is going to affect each and every one of you and your families, your communities, your businesses, by delivering the biggest tax cut in American history. What the Democrats want to do is to stick you with the biggest tax increase in American history. They wanted your taxes to go up, we're going to have your taxes go down. They're giving you extra credits and deductions to get your taxes even lower. And if you work for overtime, or you work for tips, or you're a senior citizen getting Social Security, you're going to see an even bigger tax cut. That must be someone who worked for tips, because I don't think anyone's old enough here to get Social Security numbers. The bill also includes critical tax breaks and investments in energy for this country. We're the world's energy superpower, yet the Democrats seem to be ashamed of it. They want to use windmills and solar panels for energy. I'm not the biggest fan of it either, but that's fine. You can use it, but there's no way that wind and solar power can drive our economy. Can help you keep your electricity costs down, keep down what you pay at your home, help your businesses. There's no way. But here in America, where we produce oil and gas, we're going to unleash that potential to get your costs down for what you pay at your home, what you pay for your electricity bills at home, what businesses or your communities are paying for their electricity bills as well. Just one more investment that the big, beautiful bill makes. If you make a living farming, you probably know, but a lot of you don't know, that the big, beautiful bill also includes the new farm bill, or as I like to call it, the Bozeman Farm Bill. Since our great senior senator is the chairman of the Ag Committee, and he wrote it specifically, in part, for the needs of Arkansas's farmers. It has been a tough few years in farm country because of Joe Biden's destructive policies. Farmers and ranchers and foresters have been paying more and more and more for their inputs at a time when commodity prices are very low. That's going to stop now. We're going to make sure that our farmers have a safety net to protect the most abundant, resource-rich country and our producers in the world. And we also reform the food stamp program as a kind of welfare reform to make sure that people who need a helping hand, who may be out of work, who are struggling, get the help they need. But we don't give it to illegal aliens and freeloaders and deadbeats who refuse to work. And of course, the big beautiful bill also includes a historic and generational investment in our nation's military. Our troops deserve the very best.
Yes, they do.
We should never see them. in the first place, because their enemies will never take a shot at the title. Really for 12 years, first under Barack Obama, and then his understudy, Joe Biden, the Democrats starved our military for resources they needed. They held the military hostage in many cases for welfare spending. But this year, we skipped that step. We're not going to let them hold our military hostage anymore. We've invested $150 billion in our men and women in uniform, so they will remain second to none against adversaries like China and Iran and Islamic terrorists. And thank goodness we have a commander-in-chief who once again is worthy of their service and sacrifice, and who will stand up for them, and who will not send them into pointless conflicts, but who will use decisive force when he has to deploy them, as he did against Iran's Ayatollahs just 2 months ago. That's just a small sample of everything that was in the big, beautiful bill. I could go on and on about it, but I think that's just a small, like I said, example, a little flavoring of what it's going to mean for you, for your family, for your communities, and for our state and our nation. It's a big contrast to where we were a year ago. But just like in life, in politics, there are no lost causes because there are no won causes. You always have to be moving forward, and you have to be on the offensive. You have to recognize that the other side, the liberal Democrats, are not going to give up. And you can see it everywhere. Here on the streets of Florida earlier tonight. In Washington, D.C., college campuses, and the fake news media. The left is not giving up because they will do anything to take power back. They'll do anything to stop President Trump and Republicans from delivering on our campaign promises. I see it every day having to deal with Chuck Schumer. So I gotta admit, it is not one of the things I signed on to do for all of you. But it's worth the sacrifice for all the other service. But we've had now about 7 months of President Trump back in office and Republicans in charge of the Senate. Chuck Schumer at every turn has thrown sand in the gears. Not defeating legislation, not defeating nominees, but just trying to gum up the works. I can tell you we spent so much time confirming President Trump's nominees. These are good men and women. No offense, I often didn't even know the position to which they're nominated existed until I'm asked to vote on them. And the reason for that is they're doing important work, and these jobs are essential, but it's probably not necessary for the U.S. Senate to take hours of debate for these jobs. And the U.S. Senate never operated like that either. For 200 years, almost all nominees, below, say, cabinet level nominees, like the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of the Treasury, were just confirmed on a voice vote. As recently as George Bush 41's administration, over 95% of all nominees were voice voted. It's the same thing for Bill Clinton. It fell for George W. Bush under the Democrats, stayed the same for Obama. It fell to fewer than 2/3 in Donald Trump's first term in office. Now, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, so we weren't going to stand by and take that. So under Joe Biden's term, it fell again to 57%. Do you know what it is now? You know how many nominees of Donald Trump have been confirmed by a voice vote this year?
None.
0. Not a single one. In 30 years, we've gone from 95% plus of all nominees confirmed by voice vote to none. And as I told Chuck Schumer, I told the Democrats at the end of July, this is going to change. And they're going to change their ways, or we're going to make change the way the Senate runs. So we can do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. And I'm more than happy next week when we're back in Washington to start doing it the hard way. Because this has to stop. It's not just Chuck Schumer and Democrats in the Senate. Look at all these liberal judges all across America, mostly in California, Hawaii, and New York. Every time Donald Trump turns around, they're slapping him with an injunction. They're ordering him to literally send American military aircraft overseas to find violent gang members that we deported from this country and bring them back to our country. They're saying the president can't control the way the executive branch is run. They're ordering the president to issue discretionary awards and grants of federal money that Congress explicitly gave him the discretion to approve or not approve. What are they going to do next? Is some judge in California going to order the president to rebuild Iran's nuclear program? Is some judge in D.C. going to tell him that he has to tear up the new patio that he paid for in the Rose Garden? I mean, I laugh, but it is almost that laughing. Unfortunately, we have a conservative Supreme Court, in part because of the 3 Trump justices we confirmed in the Senate in his first term, to continue to stop this nonsense. But it needs to stop faster, and these judges need to understand that they are not the president. No one elected them to do that. They need to get back to doing their work in their courtrooms, in their states, not trying to tell Donald Trump and Republicans in Congress how to run this country. That's what you elected them to do. Sometimes these Democrats, I mean, they're just crazy. They really are. And of course, President Trump, when he came into office, has put an end to your tax dollars funding sex change treatment, especially on minors, experimenting on them. He stopped your tax dollars from going to all kinds of programs that are supposed to support so-called transgender health. And the Democrats are fighting back against it. The Democrats are saying, no, your tax dollars should be going to fund sex change treatment. No, men should be competing in women's sports. I thought that's why they have men's and women's events in the Olympics, because men and women should be competing against each other. But that's what the Democrats still stand for. How many of you saw today what happened at the Democratic National Convention? They're having their summer meeting, I guess, in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
They started their convention, the Democrats started their convention acknowledging and apologizing that they were meeting on land that was stolen from Native Americans. Again, you can't make this up, they're so crazy. I just remind you, it's funny, and we can laugh at them when they're not in power. It's dangerous when they are in power. It's dangerous when Joe Biden and a Democratic Congress is using your tax dollars to fund things like sex change treatments, to fund all those windmills that are killing all the birds and not creating any energy whatsoever. When they're closing your schools, preventing your churches from meeting, investigating you if you want to pray outside of an abortion clinic. It's serious. It's dangerous, and it's a risk to each and every one of you and your rights as an American citizen. And we can never forget what it was like for those 4 years, or what it would be like if Chuck Schumer's back in charge of the Senate in a year. If Gavin Newsom, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or Bernie Sanders as president in 4 years. They're not giving up, I promise you. They're raising millions and millions of dollars. They're recruiting candidates all across the country. They're trying to find their way. I even saw a story in the New York Times today. Paper which have a long and interesting history, having written an op-ed that got their editorial editor fired for publishing it. They were talking about the differences on the challenges Democrats face, where they can make new inroads. And they said that Democrats may be looking to the South to elect new members of Congress, governors. They specifically cited Arkansas as an example, because Arkansas apparently was the only state in the South last year in which the Democrats gained seats in the legislature. So think about that. You have all the liberals in the New York Times saying, well, maybe we can see what made a difference in Arkansas and export that model elsewhere. Now, I have to inform our friends at the New York Times, the Democrats' gains in our legislature is going from 18 out of 100 state representatives to 19 out of 100 state representatives. So it wasn't exactly a smashing success, but I guess if you're the Democrats, you gotta look somewhere for success.
Mm-hmm.
Although how about we rain on their parade and next year we win a couple seats back and send them back to 17 Democrats. And just make sure that we don't ever take the good times for granted. We have a big election next year in Arkansas. And as John said, I'm up for re-election. I appreciate everyone here and your kind words and your support and your hard work and your votes over the year. And I want to ask you for that again. I don't know who my Democratic opponent's going to be, but I'm confident with the help of you and great Arkansans like you and every other county in the state that we can win again. You may have seen that President Trump endorsed me a couple months ago. I was actually in the Armed Services Committee. I didn't have my phone on me, as is often the case in that committee, in the Intelligence Committee. But we took a brief break, so I went out and looked at my phone, and I had a number from one of the young women that handled this call, so I called her back. I said, oh, the president's in the Oval Office trying to reach you. I said, okay, you can put me through. And he picked up the phone and said, Tom, it's your favorite president. And I said, I know, I never missed a call. He's like, Tom, I'm here with Boone, and he tells me you're running for re-election. I said, I am, sir. I said, I didn't know that. I said, well, don't tell the Democrats. I said, well, can I endorse you? I said, Mr. President, you're welcome to endorse me. I endorse you. He said, I know, Tom, I endorse you as well. But it's not just me. All of our statewide officers are up for re-election as well, to include our fantastic governor, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. We have all of our state representatives and half of our state senators, all of our U.S. congressmen up for re-election, all the way down to our county officers, to our judges and sheriffs, to our JPs. So please, I ask you, don't take the good times for granted. Remember how bad it can be if you get your politics and your government wrong. If you get it right, and you can trust the people that you have in office to attend to your interests, to protect your safety, to promote your prosperity, then you don't have to think about it so much. But when election time rolls around, you got to roll up your sleeves. You have to work hard. You have to knock on doors. You have to make phone calls. We all count on each and every one of you to do things like that, and to go out and encourage your friends and neighbors and co-workers and church members to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And maybe most of all, in the meantime, pray for us. Pray for all of us who are in elected office. Pray for our wisdom. Pray for our courage. Pray for our humility. And pray that we get on the side of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And that the Lord stays on the side